Hello and welcome to the Pay It Forward podcast with Payable. I'm your host, Doug McKenzie, and on today's episode of the podcast, we're finding out about the huge changes that telcos are making in the payments industry. Now, joining me here today is Virgin Media O2's Abraham Georgakarakos, and he's going to tell us some of the huge insights that their organization has made when it comes to payments innovation. Abraham, how are you doing?
Doug, first of all, I'm doing fine. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm looking forward to a very interesting conversation in a bit.
Yeah, it's going to be absolutely brilliant because I do think that the telcos are leading the charge when it comes to payments innovation. And I'm excited to get Virgin Media O2's perspective on that.
Happy to give our latest developments and our vision for the future.
Amazing. Now, when it comes to telcos and the way that payments operate, it's very much in a billing perspective. So how do you look to enhance that billing kind of procedure, make it kind of easier for your customers, and how does that relate to really how you prioritize the customer at the heart of your innovation?
Doug, this is thank you for this question because it's an excellent question because there are multiple angles that you can approach this question. So talking about starting from the billing/payment perspective, it's first of all, from my perspective, the billing experience from a customer starts from the time you decide to buy a service from us, whether it's a fixed service, whether it's a mobile service or a combination of both. We call it FMC, fixed mobile convergent product. Right. Billing experience-wise, it's very important for us as a telecom provider to be very honest with our bills. What are we going to charge the customers? What are the services we're offering before you decide to buy a service from us? And also post-purchase, it's also very important to give you the monthly clarity or whenever you pay your bill in a very clear way that these are the charges and this is what you're being charged against, whether it's a fixed service again or mobile service or even paying off your handset that you bought through us. This is one, let's say, specific angle you can approach the payment and the customer needs. But also let's not forget from meeting the customer needs part of your question is we're living in the era of economy, problematic economy crisis.
It's a hard time.
Exactly. So if we break it down, we need to make our customers life easier in terms of whether it's payments, whether it's less cost, whether providing more. And I think from this perspective, we, especially since Virgin Media and O2 came together 2.5 years ago with our joint product of having a fixed broadband service and mobile service. We call it the Vault. Not the most innovative name, but it's a dynamic. Essentially, we try to meet what our customer wanted. And what the customer wanted from a telco. They want higher speed, right? Yeah. On the fixed broadband, the fiber you have at home. And through this proposition, if you combine mobile and fixed, it will give you double the speed. When it comes to your mobile data allowance, we give you double the data allowance per month. We give you for free the priority app experience, which you can get amazing perks. And overall, we want through this proposition and of course the rest of our propositions to meet our customer needs from billing and payments perspective, because I think especially at this point, it's very important not just to offer a service, offer either internet or a handset, but also make sure that whatever we offer, we give it at the best possible price and with the maximum return for your investment as a customer to us, right? So we want to give you the fullest experience in terms of perks, but also, as I said, in terms of billing clarity before you decide to buy from us and during your contract duration.
Absolutely amazing. That really does lead to my next question, because if payments are generally becoming invisible, and I think some customers do want their bills just to come out of their account, they don't want to think about them, but you've hit the nail on the head. There's value add to be had.
Exactly.
And I'm intrigued to kind of see what value-added services, you've mentioned a few there, but what other value-added services an organization as innovative as Virgin Media O2 can provide the billing experience?
I will probably argue that the payment shouldn't be invisible, should be transparent, not invisible. Should be definitely transparent, how much you pay and what you're getting for your money. And also should be as smooth as possible. whether during, whenever you decide to sign up with us,
Yep.
again, no matter what you buy from us, but also later on, if you decide to, for example, to add a video streaming service on your O2 contract, right? I don't want to name, but we all know what are we talking about, because we offer, for example, the ability, and not just us, but also other telecom providers, the ability to attach to your contract or service any video or like podcast or music streaming services, right? But to go back to your to the main point of your question is about the transparency and what are the additional value we can add through this. Is a very recent example that we launched in kind of like enhancing the direct debit experience in terms of additional value, right? Is also offering on an industry first approach a way to automate how you sign up with us through direct debit using open banking APIs, and I will elaborate in a bit how we did that. But beyond that, I think like there are different levels through which telecom can provide additional levels and layers of added value through the billing or the payment or overall the customer experience by offering extras, for example, or add-ons, right? It's the same thing, as I said, to bundle with your contract, or even be able to buy apps and the charge will go through your monthly bill with Virgin Media O2. From this perspective, and I think like looking at the future, I think like living in the world of connected finance or embedded finance, I think in the very near future, not just in the telecom websites, but overall across websites, I think we're going to see a fusion of financial services going into non-financial services website that we're going to add more layers of services, like, and we see that happening already, like buy now, pay later, also save now, buy later, which is like the latest trend, not that prominent at the moment. But I think like it's, the future is ahead of us. And if you imagine how trendy or hot topic is at the moment, the payment and overall the ecosystem of fintech, and how we can bring the two worlds together, I think when it comes to added value to our service, I think like we're gonna have like sooner or later like a very interesting developments.
Definitely. I think you've summed up perfectly in the fact that you're at the precipice of a very big change in the industry, both in finance and in tech. And what's driving that is people's demand for instant media. And so as a result, you are right at the heart of these huge changes.
Exactly.
Now, that is also, as we've just said, the customers are demanding huge amounts of changes to the way that they operate with their, for instance, utilities or their tech providers. And I'm intrigued to know, how do you at Virgin Media O2, it's quite a hard job, how do you stay ahead of the curve? How do you find out which payment methods you should be offering? How do you find out what your customers are going to be wanting from their payments experience going forward?
That's an excellent question. That goes like it's we live every single day on how we can enhance the experience, not just from the payment perspective, right? Or whatever we call it, enhancing the website experience for our customers, but specifically for the payments, we try to follow a non-conventional approach for a telco. We're not just looking to our competitors. I think like we're not looking to our competitors. We don't need to name, but the telecom sector is very competitive. But I think considering where the utility space, where technically telecom belong, at least for the moment, looking at the fact that direct debit was the most prominent payment method for telco, and still is, right? Like a huge percentage of our payments go through direct debits.
Yeah.
But I think our approach here is like how we can take the direct debit, enhance it, but add also extra layers, looking at the customers, what the customer need, what the customers are using as a payment methods to non-telco websites, right? Whether it's Apple Pay, Google Pay, of course, debit and credit card, right? So on that note, last year in 2023, we launched a very innovative for telco industry. And I think overall, even beyond telco for UK and across Europe, the fact that we were the first operator that we kind of automated the direct debit experience through open banking, through a partner. So instead of asking the customer, give me your short code, give me your account number, and I will start charging you for the next 18 months, we take this approach and we, through, as I said, through open banking, we're automating, like using the respective mobile bank app, you auto-populate this. The other very important, let's say, enhancement when it comes to our payment methods, and personally, I'm really, really proud that we did it first in the UK, and I think like we are with a few telco operators around the world that we are offering. At the moment, we're like gradually rolling out the feature, but in the next couple of months, we're gonna roll it out to whole of our base. The fact that the ability to buy a service from us, and when you buy a service, especially a contract, you need to commit for 18 months or 24 months or whatever is your contract duration. So instead of you offering a direct debit as a payment option, we now start offering also Apple Pay, Google Pay, and of course debit and credit card as a payment method. And here's the difference: not for one-off payments, but for recurring payments for the next 18 payments during your contract duration. And I think this is something that is not very, let's say, widespread for services / recurring payments. And I think our view on this was how we can enhance fundamentally the payment experience beyond direct debit. Yes, direct debit is there, won't go away anytime soon, but people and users expect more from us, not just a telco, but other non-telco websites. So for me, living in 2024, it's a no-brainer that telcos needs to catch up not just with each other, but also what's happening beyond the telco borders. And lead the way, exactly.
I mean, it's incredible to think that I'll be able to just look at my phone and now on my banking app or my wallet app, be it Apple Pay or Google Pay, and see all my direct debits and when they expire and when the money comes out, and being able to operate and have that much control is incredible. I mean, as a renter, just being able, having to move anytime, you're having to phone up multiple different companies. Forget what code it is potentially. I'm still used to the time where you'd have to turn off your water bill or change it via post. Hearing this is very, very exciting, and really kind of makes me think you might have some insight into where you see the future of these kind of payment channels going in the future. What do you think is exciting coming down the line that our viewers should be paying attention to?
I think I'm not going to approach through the view of a telco provider, but I can give you my more generic view of what is coming mainly on the payment space. I think looking at what's happening, around us, and not just in Europe and even beyond Europe, right? I think, there is I would say a regenesis of financial services through, not just through fintechs, but other companies that offering any kind of financial services and make it cool, whether it's offering installments, whether it's offering open banking services in the UK and beyond, or over pay by bank, account to account payments, which is another huge trend that also the UK government and also there is a heavy push from the European Union to push account to account payments for several reasons that we're not going to analyze now. But I think for me, if I can summarize the top 3 trends that's coming already there, but I think they're going to accelerate in the next couple of years, I think is the massive adoption of open banking / account to account payments, not just from Abra to DAG, but also from DAG to a business. These are called commercial payments through open banking. But I think the massive adoption of open banking is one of the key trends in the UK. UK actually is one of the few countries leading the way in terms of adoption. I think last time I checked was around 8 or 9 million in the UK using open banking services for, paying the tax or paying individuals or if you're paying the business.
I think it's recently just been the 5th year anniversary as well.
Exactly. Exactly. I think that this is the first trend. The second trend is the fusion of, as I said earlier, of other financial services into non-financial websites like the telco. The ability to, for example, one of the great services that I see, again through open banking, but it's not just limited to open banking, is the affordability check. As we already know, right now is very prominent, the credit check, but affordability check through open banking is a very unique way to understand the customer needs, the spending patterns, but also helps the actual customer to understand how they spend the money and how they can optimize their spending, whether it's a telco or towards non-telco institutions. And I think the third trend will be how you can bring different financial services together into the same umbrella. Because right now we have a plethora, an overabundance of financial services like microservice or like, super services. And I think like sooner or later, we're gonna see not just in UK, but across the world, is like how these services are fused together, and you can see, a whole bunch of them on a website, not just telco, but beyond telco websites.
Well, that leads me, I know we're coming to time, but I've got to ask one last question, because we've kind of been hinting at it throughout the conversation, and that is, how do you see the role of telcos changing now that we have embedded finance, open banking? Are we going to get to the point where telcos are running parallel to banks with offering financial services?
I think it's not necessarily either this or this.
Right.
We're not, let's be honest, like telcos are not trying to compete the banks or fintechs, right?
Yeah.
It's not our role here, right? But on the other hand side, again, it all goes back how we can make our customers like life easier, how we can provide more services to our customers, make their life easier. And I would say, I think like whether you're like coming from the telco world or the bank world or a fintech world or any other financial institution beyond banks, right? I think it's the question here is how you can bring all these services together under one direction and be able to offer even through our websites, like the telco websites, financial services. Like one of the examples that I mentioned earlier, Save Now, Buy Later, is essentially how you can create a micro account through a non-financial website, basically open a bank account in order in the next couple of weeks, couple of months to be able to buy a product from us. So I think this model, and not just this model, I think like in the near future, we'll see things like this being embedded like smoothly. Again, it won't be an easy ride. It won't be a quick ride, but I think like all the telcos, I strongly believe that we want to enhance what we're offering.
Yeah.
And we want to enhance our offering beyond the strict telco borders.
It's going to be a very exciting industry. Abraham,
Indeed.
Thank you so much for your insights.
Pleasure.
Thank you. That's all we've got time for in today's episode of the Pay It Forward podcast. You can catch the rest of the series over at payabl.com and so much more over at ffnews.com too. Thank you very much and see you on the next one. Goodbye.